Baby, we are live. Happy Tuesday. Boom, baby. Hope you're having a great week so far. We are live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Hope you're having a great Tuesday so far. I am fired up today, fired up for the live stream. You're tuning in. Say hello in the chat. Hope you're having a great week so far. Hope you're having a great summer. It is July 28th, which is sad because I don't even want to say it. Summer's just beginning. Summer is just starting. It's my sister's birthday today. It was also my sister's birthday last week. I have two different sisters born a week apart. Not actually a week apart, multiple. But happy birthday, Regina. Hope you're having a great birthday. Sure, she's tuning in. Our chat is working here. Boom. Website in the chat pops up. Website. Boom. It's working. Hope you're having a great week so far. We have an awesome live stream planned for you today. I got my Jimothy t-shirt on. Shout out to the greatest raccoon on planet Earth, Jimothy, up here in the Pacific Northwest. We love our funky looking raccoons, I guess. Making some national headlines. Anyways, if you saw the teaser of the show, we're going to dive into what ATS systems do, what my ATS system does, what it looks like, what an ATS optimized resume will do for you. So buckle up for that. It's gonna be heck. There we go. Accidentally hit the volume knob. Don't want to mess with that. So we're rocking. Say hello if you're just tuning in. My name is Josh. This is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. I go live every single week. Talk about super exciting topics like insurance, jobs, claims adjusting, careers, all that fun stuff. So if you're a hiring manager, if you're a job seeker, or if you're just someone who's curious about insurance, this live stream is for you. Totally open format. Like to keep it conversational. That's why we put the chat right there on screen. I want to hear what you're thinking about. If you got problems or things that you're trying to tackle in your life, let's hear about them. We can work through them together. That's what we're here for. So let's start the show out with Hear You Winning. Received a message from Bailey this past week. Bailey let me know that they got a job. So shout out Bailey. Let's get the buzzer going. Shout out Bailey, getting work. Let's go. Fired up. That's awesome. That's why we do this. The whole idea of this show was to help 100 people get jobs in the year 2026. That was our goal when we started the show back in January. Calling it the road to 100. We got the little ticker down here. Bailey is number 28. So shout out Bailey. Congrats for getting your job. Excited to hear more about it. Excited to see where you end up. Super exciting stuff. Bailey reached out to me via LinkedIn. I sent my resume template over, and yeah, it's been just a couple weeks. I should probably read the whole message. But yeah, shout out Bailey getting a new job this past week. Caleb, thanks for tuning in. Hope you're having a great week. Hope the Midwest, you're staying cool. It's been interesting summer, and as I look to find Bailey's message, I see Barry got a job. So yeah, let's see. I've accepted a position. It's a great step up in my industry, a substantial raise and benefits package. Thank you for all your help. I cannot begin to thank you enough. I sent out apps today using this. Oh, that was a while back. I sent out apps today using the template you provided. I already have one pre-interview process started with a major carrier, contact with 4 recruiters, resulting in 2 promising connections. I've been on the grind since May 1st. This is the quickest and most efficient response I've had to date. I'll keep you posted. I'm confident this will turn into a position. That's what Bailey said back in June. And then about a month later, got great news, accepted a position. It's a great step up, substantial pay Thanks so much. So, shout out Bailey. Putting the grind in, doing everything right, active on LinkedIn, applying for jobs, optimizing your resume, doing everything together in conjunction. Yeah. Watching Bailey was pretty cool to just seeing someone do everything right and to see the fruit of that labor. And job seeking is really tough. It's emotionally damaging, but it's emotionally difficult. It's a full-time job in itself, and it's kind of a roller coaster. And so just gets me totally fired up seeing people get that offer letter. I recently obtained my Texas All Lines Adjuster license. I find it challenging to break into the industry because of many positions require prior claims experience. What advice would you give someone trying to land their first adjuster role? That is from Keen. I can barely see it on my screen. I don't know how to pronounce it. I apologize if I'm butchering this. Kina? Thanks for tuning in. First off, appreciate you. You're in the right spot. Yeah. First off, it's a very difficult time to get into insurance. There's a lot of people that are just getting their license, looking for work. It's kind of an interesting time because AI has kind of rewired some of the positions, where some of the call center positions that used to exist, that was a pathway up into claims, no longer exist. So congrats on getting your license. Awesome first step. That is the first step to being an adjuster. You have to be licensed in order to get to be an adjuster to handle claims. Top things that I would recommend to someone who's just trying to break in is, the first thing is your chances are probably higher going into an office. And I know it's not what everybody wants to hear, but most of the training entry-level positions right now are in office. And so wherever you live, Kenya, like the country, there it is, Kenya. Thank you for tuning in, Kenya. Yeah, I would look around in your city at the biggest, tallest building and see what insurance company's name is on that building. And that is probably one of the companies that I would look at. A lot of the larger, big 5 or 6 top companies in the country right now have some of the bigger training programs and are willing to kind of take a chance and train someone brand new. A lot of times that requires going into the office physically, and maybe that turns into hybrid down the road, but that's kind of the trend that I'm seeing. Also, wouldn't sleep on some of the smaller companies, smaller mom and pops, smaller mutual companies. Again, if they have offices like local to your area, that's what I would check out. And also be open to positions that aren't just claim adjusters, right? If there's an underwriting assistant position available, if there's like a marketing assistant for like a local agency, try and get your foot in the door kind of any way you can. I would also highly recommend, in addition to applying for jobs, you want to connect with actual human beings. That's going to be a big topic of today's live stream, but you want to connect with real people. You can do that online. You can do that in person. There's a million ways you can do that. Back in the day, you used to show up to an office, knock on the door, and introduce yourself. Asked to fill out an application. A lot of times right now, you can't just walk into a business anymore. And so I think online, the internet has made it easier for us to network. And so things like LinkedIn, connecting with people, posting about your experience, talking about what it was like to get your license, things you learned along the way, being visible that way is really great. And then trying to connect with other people, and then also join professional organizations. One that I would highly recommend is Rise Professionals, Rise Insurance Professionals. And then also just local claims organizations. So depending on where you live, if you live in Dallas, like the Dallas Claims Association. If you live in Florida, Tampa Bay Claims Association, the Orlando Claims Association. Whatever area that you live in, there's likely a claims association. If you're an adjuster, a lot of times these events are relatively cheap or inexpensive, and a good place to go network with other people that are in the same boat, and also claims leaders and people that are hiring. So that's what I would do. Also hang out here. We talk about these things every single week. As I teased in my LinkedIn post today, I'm going to show the back end of my applicant tracking system. I see a lot of information online about beating the ATS or buy my resume template so you can optimize your resume for robots, all this fun stuff. I'm going to share my opinions on it. I'm going to actually show you what an ATS looks like, what it does, what the back end looks like, what an ATS optimized resume actually is. We're going to go through all that here in just a minute. Super excited about it. It's got me fired up here on a Tuesday. But first, let's see what's first. I don't even remember. Market Pulse. Okay, real quick. Where's my alert button? There it is. We got an alert. We're currently working on a position for a wonderful client in the state of California, specifically in Orange County right now. Very unique position and also geographically in a difficult spot. I don't know how many California listeners of this show we have. Hopefully thousands. But if you're a California listener of the show, or if you know people in California looking for a claims supervisor, claims manager, for a self-insured. So a really, I think it's a really awesome opportunity. Something a little bit different. It's not your typical kind of claims role. Working for a company that has their own self-insurance program. And we're looking for someone to kind of take lead on the property and casualty part of that. It's a really exciting company. They do a lot of different things in kind of a bunch of different areas: property management, construction, landscaping, all kinds of different things. And they have their own self-insured risk pool. And so they use insurance companies once it hits limits, but kind of up to a certain amount, they self-insure, which means, I mean, it's just a little bit more direct, right? An insurance company, obviously you're trying to pay claims what they're worth. You have a policy written, do this. And similar with a self-insured risk pool is it's your company's physical money, right? And so you don't want to be overpaying on claims or spending too much money on litigation and things like that. So you want to handle claims efficiently, effectively, and get it right the first time. And I think it's a really cool opportunity kind of building into risk management. You're handling claims in the traditional sense, but you're also trying to look at trends, prevent claims, improve your loss ratios. It's not just claims handling. It's kind of a cool introduction, if you will, or pathway into broader risk management, which I think is a really cool career path for adjusters. And so, yeah, if you're in Los Angeles, or if you know someone who's just crushing it as a general liability claims examiner, or as a casualty supervisor looking to work for a really cool company, really awesome opportunity, hit your boy up. So cool, something I'm working on. I won't talk too much about it. There you go. I think it's a cool opportunity. I think it's a little bit different than a lot of the roles that I've staffed or recruited for in the past, and so just want to talk about it quick here. There it is. Orange County, California. Let's get out there. Let's go out to LA. Okay, this is what I'm going to get into. I just skipped around kind of where I'm at in my deal, but I want to get into it. I teased at the beginning. Let's talk about ATSs. Last week, I made this big, long post about my frustrations with some of the things that are happening in the talent acquisition world right now. The big thing that I'm frustrated with, or I see all the time and just grinds my gears, is basically misinformation as to what an applicant tracking system does. I get pretty active in some of these forums and talking to people and sometimes arguing. Maybe I shouldn't, but basically a specific scam that I've been seeing recently, and I've seen people tell me about it, is a recruiter will hit you up on LinkedIn and say, hey, I've got this awesome job for you. You fit perfect. All your skills, everything that you have is a match for it. Can you send me your resume? Which is a pretty common message. I send not that exact message, but I've sent messages similar to that before. And so as a recruiter, it grinds my gears that people do this. I think it harms everybody when you see these scams. But basically the scam is the person replies and says, oh my gosh, here's my resume. A lot of times that person will have a green open for work banner. They're targeting these people specifically. And then the response is, oh my gosh, your experience is perfect, but your resume is not optimized for the ATS. And if I submit your resume for this job, the ATS is going to knock it out. So if you would like, I actually will rewrite your resume for a fee of $250, and you're going to get more interviews immediately. Specifically this client, because your previous resume will get knocked out by the ATS. And so there was never a job to begin with. The ATS doesn't really do any of that. It just makes me mad. And so I want to preface it by saying I'm not against resume writers. I know really good resume writers. That's a service that people offer that I'm a firm believer that everybody out there could write their own resume. You can do it. But some people don't want to. Or some people want a professional to do it. And for $200, $150, $250, whatever that price is, that's totally worth it to some people. And that's fantastic. That's great. I have nothing against hiring somebody to build a resume for you. But what I don't like is when someone goes online and says, you need to do this because of this. And it's not real. It's not a real thing. It's not it. And I'm going to show you that right now. I'm going to show you the advice they're giving you. I'm going to show you what an ATS optimized resume looks like and what an ATS not optimized resume. I'm going to show you my ATS processing these resumes and what that looks like. So, yeah. It's something I see every day. It's me fired up. But let's rock with it. Drink a protein shake and we'll go. Okay, my milk mustache. Okay, so let's go ahead and rock. I'm going to show you the back end of my ATS. It's going to require a little bit of... I can't show you everything in my ATS because there's information in there that I do not want the mass public to see. But we'll make this work. So, big job. Oh no. Oh, I put them in. Oh, okay. Here we go. Again, if you are just tuning in, this is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. I go live every single Tuesday at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Central time, and we talk about insurance careers, jobs, moving up in claims, whatever you want to talk about. It's totally open. That's called the office hours for a reason. We just kind of keep it open, chat about things, chat about problems you're having, whatever that might look like. So I'm going to show you the back end of my ATS here. And then we're going to get into what this actually does. Okay, so screen share button. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so this is what my ATS looks like. My ATS, the one that I use, is called Recruiter Flow. I toured maybe 30 over the past 5 years. I didn't tour 30 just now, for this one, but I've been proficient in, I would say, probably 5 different softwares that I've used on a day-to-day basis. So I understand different ones. I've used Workday. I've used ADP. Theirs is terrible. Both those ones are terrible. I've used custom-made ones. I've used Recruiter Flow. I've used Manitoul. I've used Recruit CRM. So I've used a number of these. I've toured some of the big ones like Greenhouse, Lever, Luxo is another big one. So I've toured kind of Crelate, another one I've toured. So like I've toured all the top ones. I've toured some of the other ones like ADP, Workday, not really the best, but they're very common. But what is an ATS? What does an ATS do? An ATS is like a filing cabinet for my work as a recruiter. Back in the day, I would get a resume in and I would put it in a filing cabinet in a folder. That's how we would do that. And then we would retain those records for 7 years. If I needed people, I might go to old resumes, pull up that file in that filing cabinet. An ATS is basically a filing cabinet for me as a recruiter. So it files away everything. It helps me organize my workflows. It also helps me make communication plans to candidates. It also helps me organize things, find old resumes, all that stuff. That's what an ATS does. Okay. This screen right here is the add a candidate screen. So what I did basically, I went into Claude. I had Claude create me 10 resumes for a position. We're going to pretend that this is a property adjuster position, right? So we're hiring a property adjuster right now. Okay. And so what I did here was I bulk uploaded these resumes. I chose a file and I just dropped them in. That's all I did. All I did was drop in these resumes. I hit upload, and then we're going to see what happens. So what is my ATS doing now? There is some sort of AI or keyword search or whatever it might be on the back end that is organizing these. I told them specifically to put it in a job. So a lot of times what happens is like you apply to a job, it does the same thing. So if you go on my website and you click apply to job and you drop your resume in there, it does the exact same thing as what this is. Okay, if you go to the same thing, if like this might post it, I don't do this, but you can like post it to 15 different job sites. So one of the nice things like about Workday, for instance, is I can post a job on my website and it'll also post it on monster.com, indeed.com, you know, whatever the job, it's hooked up to like 100 job boards. And so it's going to post on those. I think that's trash. It doesn't really do a whole lot for you, but one of the things it does is it adds like SEO, right? So it'll actually, the internet sees that and it builds your SEO for your company. So there is a little bit of value in terms of SEO, I think. Not a whole lot of value in getting meaningful applications, in my humble opinion. But anyways, that's how that works, right? So we put the resumes in here, it pulls them into our applicant tracking system, and then we can go into that specific job and we can see, so here's my job. Oh, shoot. Okay, perfect. That off. Okay, so here's my job. And here's my 10 applicants. So basically, I took 10 resumes and I put them in here. These are all fake. These aren't real people. I had AI generate this. The names are kind of funny. But that's what it looks like. So now this is my fake job. I can see how many people have applied to the job. I can see like where they're at in the process. I can move them around into this process. I can click on a person. I can send them emails directly from here. I can put notes. I can put schedule, maybe a follow-up, whatever it is. I can invite them. I can have templates for, so like if I want to, let's say someone interview or applies and I want to send them an interview thing with a standardized template and, you know, book, here's my schedule, book an interview with me. I can do that all pretty cleanly, pretty automatically. I don't have it set up, but you can text people from here. You can even call people from here. I can call someone from here and it will, the AI will record notes for me if I want. I don't have that set up. I'm not as fancy. I'm a cell phone guy. I'm not a call on my computer guy, but you can do all that stuff. Again, this is all fake. That's not a real phone number. It's not a real person. It's nothing. None of this is real. So if you want to call Devin Marsh, I have bad news for you, but that's what it looks like. Okay. And so specifically talking about AI optimized resumes here, and what does that exactly look like? What does that do? What is the AI optimization doing? Different ATSs have different levels of this. I've seen like 40 different ones. What I'm telling you is most of them, all they do is they take keywords and they put a keyword section on here. Okay. And so a lot of the advice that you see from these online people is like, okay, I want you to go list a bunch of keywords at the end of your resume because the ATS robots need these keywords. Otherwise, you're going to get auto rejected. And so I see that over and over and over, put keywords. I've even seen people say what you should do is at the end of your resume, put a bunch of keywords in like a white font that you can't see, and then it'll pick all those up. And again, add those to your resume. It's going to boost your score and you're going to get the top of the list. I'm going to show you what this actually does. So here's the resume. Let's see, files. Out of here. Okay, files. Okay. Here's a resume that I had ChatGPT create. You can't really see this. Okay. So here's the resume, right? And this is no relevant experience, nothing like that. Literally not like if I saw this resume, it would be probably a very quick. No, they have nothing on here that shows anything relevant to working in claims. Don't have a license, don't have anything. Right. And this is like 90% of all the resumes that you get on Indeed.com. Look exactly like this. Not at all related to anything that you're trying to recruit for. So, let's go back in. We're going to close all those tabs. Okay, let's go back in and let's look at what keywords. There's a couple a couple skills in here. This is what pulled in from my ATS. Optimize your ATS. Make sure you get those keywords. So it looks like we pulled in RF scanners. I don't know what that is, but OSHA safety. So it pulled that in. Inventory control didn't pull that. Oh, it did pull that in. Cycle counting pulled that in. It skipped pallet jacks and sit down and stand up forklifts. So it pulled in some of these keywords. What does that get you in terms of getting more interviews or getting more work or whatever it might be? Maybe if I search and I need a forklift operator, I put in the words forklift in my search bar in the future. I'm still going to look at this resume for this job, but I'm not sure that keyword really does a whole lot. So let's go to the next. Let's go. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to be like, no, not qualified, right? We're going to go ahead and disqualify that person. That's what we do. That's how we work as recruiters. So now we're going to the next one. This person, again, we want to go here and look. Is this giving us any benefit? Is this helping us at all? Or is this what we're going to do? Click on this resume. Look at this resume. Last job, McDonald's. Job before that, Taco Bell. Job before that, Wendy's. This is what it's like to be a recruiter. This is what we do every single day. This is what happens when you post a job online. Is this person getting an interview for a property adjuster role that requires 3 years of property adjuster experience? Or even an entry-level one? No, they're not. Because they didn't indicate anything related. They don't have any related skills or experience. I'm not saying you have to have adjusting experience necessarily to break in, but you have to show that you can do the job. And this doesn't show to me that you can do the job. What are we going to do? We're going to disqualify. Not qualify. Boom. This is what we do. Okay, let's go find one. Let's go find one that's a little bit better. Look at this. They've got some skills. Look at this. So they've listed this is your ATS optimized resume. For this specific resume, I went into Claude and said, I want you to build one resume specifically optimized exactly how the ATS wants it. And this is what it popped out for me. You can see it does this for all of them, right? It pulls the experience out. If they have education records, this one doesn't. If they had like college degree on here, it would pull that in here. So it pulls that in there. Look at this. We have all these skills. It didn't put all these on there. It picked a handful of them. A little bit more than the ones that we had in the past, although they added like a ton. So what happens if you don't have this section? You're totally going to miss out on this beautiful skills section that everyone else has, right? And that's going to make it so you can't get jobs in the future, right? So what happens when we find one with the same exact information without this skills section? But what if we put this resume in the absolute worst ATS format that we could possibly think of? We're talking 2 sections, photograph at the top, 2 columns. So what if I ask Chat or Claude to build me the worst possible resume? What does that look like? Let's see if I can find it. This one. Pretty bad. This is like a scanned piece of paper. It's not even going the right way. It looks terrible. The actual resume itself is pretty solid. This is a pretty good resume in terms of like formatting. There's no skills section at the end. They put 3 software skills, which is what I recommend doing, by the way. Oh my gosh, it still has skills here. It's still pulled in skills. How did it do that? That's so crazy. They didn't put a skills section and it's still bringing these things in. It's going to scan your bullet points, y'all. It scans all of this. I don't use this section. It's very... We can sit here and debate if this section is even worth it, if this has any meaningful outcomes for you. Sure, if I'm searching for other people in my database on a job that's unrelated, there may be like a little bit of search engine optimization where you get a little benefit. But what I'm telling you, and what I pound the table and scream online, is that you need to effectively communicate your experience and skills within your bullet points. So when you're talking about your previous jobs, you want to be talking about the things you did, the experiences that you gained, you know, what and how that relates to the job that you're looking for. And the resume ATS is going to pull that information in. So you're going to have things like claims management, handling claims, compliance standards. Again, it's like kind of making this stuff up and it doesn't always make sense. But as a recruiter, you're not really relying on any of this. You're going to go look at the resume for 4 seconds. It's going to be this. And you're going to say, oh yeah, I probably want to talk to that person. As opposed to the other 5 resumes that we went through earlier that have no related experience, skills, or anything. And that's what it's like being a recruiter. I'm not looking to hire someone off their resume because they have a bunch of skills. I'm not looking to hire someone off their resume. All I am doing when I'm going through resumes is I'm looking to say, is this resume worth me looking at for another 15 to 20 seconds, right? And then, so I'm going through hundreds at a time. Delete, 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 not delete, but reject, reject, reject. You know, that's how it goes, because if you post on Indeed, I don't do this anymore. But this is what your corporate recruiters do. You know, when you work for a big company like Allstate, the corporate recruiters aren't on LinkedIn headhunting like I am. What they do is they post jobs online and then they sort through those jobs online. And then they get 500 applications for each job. And then they do this thing where it's like, disqualified, disqualified. It's just like a no button on their desk. They're just slamming. But the no's are not people like this. Even with a poor resume format that looks kind of crappy and it's like scanned in, they're saying no to the people that have no relevant skills or experience or are failing to communicate how their previous experience is relevant to the job they're looking for. Those are the people they're saying no to. And it's very, very obvious as a recruiter or even someone who's not a recruiter. We can play this game. We can do this. The average recruiter looks at a resume for 8 seconds before they decide if they want to move forward or not. We could play this game. I mean, we could click on this resume right here. Do I want to talk to this person about a property adjusting role that needs 3 years of experience? Go. General contractor, estimator. Now we could argue that. We could go on that, but okay. Property adjuster for 7 years. Dependent adjuster for 2. Yeah, I want to talk to this person. Or at least I want to check out more. How about this person? 8 seconds. No relevant skills, experience, or any way that they're communicating that they want to be an adjuster, that they've done any training classes to be an adjuster. They have relevant skills or experience. If I was hiring a barista, this would be an awesome person to talk to. But that's the advice that's kind of being spewed online and that you see online. And then you see people be like, I applied to 500 jobs and the ATS kicked me out. on all these 500 jobs and it's not my fault. You know, I understand kind of the negative connotation of applying to lots of jobs and getting rejected, but we need to be real about like what that actually is and what's happening there. And it's not you're getting kicked out by robots. And so this whole advice that's saying, you know, optimize your ATS or your resume for an ATS. Don't do that. Optimize your resume for a human being who wants to hire you. That's what you should be doing. I'm yet to find an ATS software that auto rejects people. As you can see, there is no auto reject button here. Let me know if you can find it. Where we set up these auto reject. One of the things we can do, and I don't even have this, for a number of reasons, but not to say I don't contact people, but you know, I do a lot of headhunting, and so it wouldn't make sense for me to send an email saying we're not considering you for this job, because a lot of the people, you know, are people that I find online and reach out to directly, right? And so they get an email saying you're not being considered for this job. That would be odd, right? So that's why I don't set that up. But I could set it up to basically send it like an auto email saying, okay, if I click on this, not qualified, it could send one, right? It could send one, whatever. But that's some of the functionality. The closest thing I have to what's being talked about is, again, this AI search function where I can write a job description, I can put it in there, and I can have AI match people to the job that are previously in my ATS or in my database. Again, is putting a bunch of keywords on your resume at the end going to give you any meaningful difference from doing that and just writing good bullet points? I am not sold. I don't think so. And so, yeah, it fires me up to see these scams online. It fires me up to see people trying to charge $250 to optimize your resume for the ATS. Interesting. I feel like I've applied to jobs that I'm genuinely a fit for and yet get that rejection. Despite working with several people specifically who built my resume, what would you suggest doing? So a couple things. One of the things that I'm seeing online and that I am hearing about consistently is like these ghost jobs where people will post jobs. And I've as a recruiter, I've had companies that have asked me to do this, so I know it's a real thing. I saw a Forbes article recently that said that like 1/3 of jobs online aren't even real. I think ghost jobs is a huge problem. And so I do wonder when I see jobs online sometimes, is this a real job or are they really just like kind of looking for a unicorn? Right? They have some crazy thing that they have in mind where they want a very specific, very particular background. And so a company will throw a job posting up, get hundreds of applications, but they're really not super serious about hiring someone. And so I wonder about that. And so looking at the company to see if it's reputable, also see how long that job posting has been up. Sometimes you hear companies like, oh, we got 500 applications, so we're no longer accepting applications for this role, which I think is kind of weird, but you see things like that. But yeah, I think most of the time when a company says no to you, you don't really know what the reason is. What I find as a recruiter is a lot of times job seekers like will see a position and get really excited about it. And sometimes the job description doesn't accurately kind of spell out what they're looking for. And a lot of times I see companies and hiring managers that are like just very particular. They want, building a pipeline. Yeah, you see that. You see a lot in independent adjusting world. You see it a lot. I see TPAs do it. Okay, we have a client that's maybe coming on board, or we have a really big lead, and so we're going to post a bunch of general liability adjusting positions, and we're going to see what we get. And then if we get the contract, then we'll start hiring. So like I kind of understand that, but I think it's a little bit weird. I think there is a lot of that going on. Another thing is I just see, you know, when I talk to hiring managers or I talk to people that are looking for people, they a lot of times are just very specific in what they're wanting. And you might see your experience and it may make sense to you, but they might be looking for someone with a very specific background, or they're targeting like a very specific profile, and it's not necessarily personal. Um, although it feels it, those rejection emails are tough. It stinks to get them, but that's another thing I see where, for worse, if it's right, if it's wrong, I don't necessarily always know, or yeah, we could argue like, is what they're looking for really the best, or is that really, the best thing for them as a company? But at the end of the day, it's like they get to decide what they're looking for. And so I totally get that, and I feel that, and I hear that from a lot of people. Like, they apply for jobs, and yeah, it looks like you look at it and you see like a perfect match, but sometimes the person on the other side doesn't. And it's nothing against you or like saying that your experience is bad, but it certainly like stinks to hear. The other thing I'll say, and I don't know, Becky, exactly what industry you're in or what you're looking at, is the market is very crowded right now for claims adjusters. I think, especially on the property side, um, the way that companies are doing work has changed a little bit, and it's resulted in a lot of really experienced property adjusters looking for work. And so, especially on the property side, um, you have people with like 20 years of experience that are angling for entry level jobs, and it's really hard to be someone with. I mean, even people with 20. Florida is kind of this like. Florida's its own thing right now. You have all the changes in the insurance industry. You have the property workflow changing a lot, right? You're using some of these inspection only companies. We could talk about the reason why that is, but you also have legislation changes where people aren't filing as many claims as they used to. And so you had a lot of property people in Florida who are now looking for jobs, and it's something I see almost every day. And so I think part of that is just the industry has changed a little bit, and it's definitely harder for people to find work, especially on the property side, where I'm seeing more and more opportunity right now. And I think the data supports this, is in the commercial auto and general liability and product line. Like, any commercial line right now is hot. And I think we talked about it last week. Like, AM Best did their annual kind of health of the industry. Property crushed it. Personal lines auto crushed it last year, made tons of money. Commercial lost money. And so, like, especially commercial auto, transportation, general liability, that's where social inflation, lawsuits, all this stuff is crushing the insurance companies, which is putting more pressure on adjusters and TPAs and claims companies, which is resulting in more opportunities. So I think a lot of the opportunity right now is in commercial auto, general liability, transportation, product liability, any of these like kind of niche specialty lines, especially on the commercial side. That's where I would be looking for that. But specifically resume tips and resume advice, and kind of get back into it. You want a clean, solid resume that articulates your experience and how you can help the organization that you're applying to. You don't need to necessarily tailor each resume to each company. You see that advice online sometimes. I would build specific resumes for specific job profiles, right? If you're applying for a auto adjusting position, I would have kind of an auto adjuster resume that's highlighting liability, damage, whatever the different aspects of those jobs are. And if you're also maybe applying to property desk positions or whatever, you might just have like a different resume for each of those. I have a free resume template. You can reach out to me, or you can go to crewtalentgroup.com and join the Crew Talent Network, and it'll automatically send that to you. So if you want to see what I send, that's the resume template that I use. If I don't necessarily always use this, but typically when I'm submitting an adjuster to one of my clients, I will remake their resume or have them remake their resume using my format. And so I know it works. I know people get hired with this format. It's tried and true. So I'll give that to you for free. No strings attached. And just to kind of show this, just to beat this horse to death, I had see if I can find this. This is the absolute worst of the worst, right? This is the worst possible resume template, right? This is the opposite of ATS optimized right here. We got the 2 columns. It doesn't actually have a photo. Again, this is Claude generated. This is not a real person. This is all fake information. But I had Claude basically create me the worst possible ATS optimized resume that it could possibly do. And this is what it came up with. This is literally all the advice that you see online, what not to do. And what I'm going to show you is, secondly, before I do, there's no keywords on here, which is, again, ATS optimized. Make sure to put lots of keywords on there. We're still pulling keywords on here. It still pulls keywords. The worst possible optimized one. It still pulled employment dates perfectly. It still pulled keywords. Again, we can debate like the actual value in this, but it's still doing this on the worst ever. It's tough out there for everyone right now. I'm coming from an insurance background, focusing my search on client experience and marketing roles. It's been a really challenging market. No, I totally get that. I think, yeah, a lot of my background was in independent adjusting, catastrophe response work. And so I have a lot of friends in these spaces. Back to this main screen. I have a lot of friends in these spaces, and it's really difficult right now. You know, you have anyone from the independent firms to the restoration contractors to the ALE companies to the estimating teams to the, you know, all these, this whole ecosystem that kind of runs within this catastrophe side, that we haven't had any major catastrophes in the last 2 years. And so you're seeing kind of the ripple effects of that within all these different layers. You know, the marketing people on the ALE teams, you know, or the marketing people on the independent adjusting firms. Like, the independent adjusting firms themselves, you know, are struggling again because there hasn't been a whole lot of CAD activity. And so it is really tough out there right now. Again, a couple of the areas that I would really look at, I think the InsurTech side right now is a booming marketplace. You know, you're seeing all these, like, oh, technology's taking jobs. We can debate, like, what's actually happening there. Is technology really good enough to do this? But what I will say objectively is there are tons of really exciting InsurTech startups. You know, some of these InsurTech startups are solving awesome problems. There's a lot of ones that are kind of interesting, and we'll see what happens. But that's another place that I would kind of look at in terms of opportunity, is maybe like the service provider positions or the service provider companies are changing a little bit and moving more towards the tech space. And so from like a marketing and client experience role, that could be one place to look. Some of these cool InsurTechs, and just networking with some of these people, because they all run in the same circles. They all know each other. The biggest thing that I recommend to people every day is conversations over applications. You're going to have more luck in your job search if you are engaging in genuine conversation with human beings, as opposed to optimizing your resume for a robot. And so whatever you can do to go out and network with people, if it's join professional organizations, if it's join Rise insurance professionals, if it's network with people here on LinkedIn, having a genuine conversation that's not, hey, I need a job. It's more of like, what are you seeing in the marketplace? So I want to hear about your ideas. What cool new products are you using? How has technology impacted your job? Like any of those things, starting a conversation with another human being is going to get you further than spraying and praying your resume on LinkedIn or on Indeed.com. And so that's what I definitely try and kind of preach here and pound my fist on the table, is having genuine conversations with other people is going to get you so much further than applying for jobs. And so that's what I'd recommend. Connect with people and measure that as like a KPI in your job search. You know, I think I hear a lot of people ask me, like, how many applications should I do per week? And I think a way to reframe that is pick a goal number and start slow. Like, it doesn't need to be crazy. Maybe you have 2 conversations a week, and that conversation could just be you messaging a stranger on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I think your profile is really cool. I looked at your job journey. You know, I'm searching for jobs right now. Do you have any tips for me? Like, even this right here is a conversation that it's not You know, it's not, hey, I need a job, Josh, help me. It's like genuine conversation. I think people start talking. We want to help each other out and we want to spread knowledge and whatever. And we can learn from each other too. And so building genuine connections, making friends, it may not lead to a job tomorrow, but it might lead to a connection in 2 weeks. You know, oh, I was just talking to this person and they were saying that they were looking for someone in marketing. And so maybe those are tips that I love to talk about. But yeah, like my business too, like when I'm doing marketing, you know, and that's what this ultimately at the end of the day, like finding a job is very similar to doing marketing. You know, you're just marketing yourself as a company or marketing me as a company, trying to find businesses that I want to work with and help them fill their roles. You know, none of my clients have started out with me on a LinkedIn DM saying, hey, I need work. It all starts out with a conversation. And one of the things that I do, probably to a fault sometimes, is like talk about what I do online. It's part of the reason for the podcast, but talk about experiences you have, talk about what I do as a recruiter, talk about, you know, and people start to see you as like a leader in that space. So yeah, I think the internet's super powerful in terms of job seeking. And I think that starting genuine communications, you're starting genuine conversations with other people is the best way to do it. Okay, let's see what else we got. What else do we want to talk about? Yeah, okay. Let's talk. We could talk about this one here. We got a couple minutes left. This is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours weekly live stream. I've got some things that I have, you know, lined up to talk about. I typically like to have a 1 or 2 topics. We beat the ATS horse to death here today. But typically this show is just totally open-ended. We want to talk to job seekers, hiring managers, insurance leaders, people who want to get in. Anybody who's hanging out. My office is open every Tuesday for an hour. We talk about whatever you want to talk about. The whole goal is to try and help 100 people get jobs in the insurance industry in the year 2026. Again, we are up to 28, which is super exciting. A long way to go. We're about halfway through the year, just over halfway. It's almost August. Little milk mustache with my protein shake. But that's the purpose of this. My name is Josh. I recruit in claims for a living with my company, Crew Talent Group, the greatest claims recruiting company on planet Earth. Yeah, that's what I do full time. I help companies find adjusters. I help adjusters get jobs. My company turned 1 year old on the 26th, 2 days ago. That's pretty cool. Yeah, what's the difference between a public adjuster and an insurance adjuster? I should make a long video about this, and I don't want to get too crazy. Basically, an insurance adjuster is working on behalf of an insurance company. It is their job to investigate insurance claims, make determinations, estimate damages, determine cause of loss, communicate with the policyholder, customer service, negotiate with contractors, and ultimately decide the fate of a claim. Their job is not to get the least amount of pay out the least amount of money. Their job is to indemnify the insured, to make them whole. If the policy states that the insurance company owes money, the insurance company wants to pay that money, which is crazy concept. You hear about this every single day. Oh, the insurance company did this, that, the other thing. What you don't hear about every day is Josh gets in a car accident, file a claim with his insurance company. 6 days later, they sent him a check, and he was on his way, happy and could be. It doesn't make good headlines. It's not as fun. But that's what insurance adjusters do. If you're an insurance adjuster out there, let me know if you've ever had an insurance company, tell you not to pay claims, to just hide them under the rug, to pay the least amount. No, they want to pay what they're owed. They want to pay what the policy says. They don't want to pay more than that. They don't want to pay a contractor excessive amounts of money to do a job that another contractor would do with the same quality for a less price. right? And so those are some of the things that insurance adjusters do. What a public adjuster does is works on the opposite side. They are retained by the policy holder to negotiate that claim on their behalf. Typically, the policyholder will pay a premium of like 10% of the insurance payout to hire a public adjuster. So that means if you're a policyholder and you have a $20,000 roof claim, you hire a public adjuster to negotiate on your behalf, costs $20,000 for you to replace that roof. That means you're going to have to pay an extra $2,000 if you're using a public adjuster, because you have to pay them. Now, is that money worth it? I'm not going to say that public adjusters don't have a place in the ecosystem. They're very good public adjusters, and I think there's a need, right? If an insured has a legitimate dispute about what they should be owed, or if something is covered and they want someone to help them with that dispute that's not a lawyer, that's going to cost less than a lawyer, I think there's a place for public adjusters within the ecosystem. I think one of the things that you see is debated is sometimes, do you need a public adjuster on every single claim? Should a public adjuster be knocking on your door trying to get you to file? Those are some of the things that there's some bad actors out in the world that make the profession maybe not look super great at times. And so yes, there's some very good public adjusters out there, and I think it's very needed in the industry. However, when you see videos online of some dude screaming at Ladder Now because he's not a licensed adjuster on a site, it gives which I saw online, yeah, it's in my algorithm, it gives the whole profession a bad name. So that's the difference. Two different sides. What I will say is they'll need different licenses, and like it or not, insurance companies or claims companies or people that hire claims adjusters, insurance adjusters, sometimes don't love hiring public adjusters, right? Why? Because it's like they're almost suing the insurance company. So if you're knocking on doors trying to convince people that their insurance company is screwing them every day, an insurance company's probably not going to want to hire you. And once you get that public adjuster license, it's public record. They can see that forever. And so that's where I kind of caution people is like, if you want to be a public adjuster, if that's the route you want to take, if that's what you want to do, absolutely go do that. And I wish you the best. And I have friends that are public adjusters. And I think it's a needed part of the ecosystem. But I do think it's important to talk about, like, the reality is if an insurance company sees that or can find that record, that public knowledge, that license, it may impact your ability to get a job in an insurance adjuster in the future. And if that's okay with you, that's great, but you should know that going into it. And yeah, that's kind of the two different sides. One of the things I would always ask people when people come to me and say, oh, someone reached out and had this opportunity to become a public adjuster, one of the questions I would ask is, how do they obtain clients? And are you responsible for helping obtain clients? And what exactly does that look like? So that's it. That's all I'll go into. I should probably make a longer form video. Again, I work on one side. I'm clearly biased, right? I have my opinions on it. That being said, I know people who are public. I know people who have worked on both sides and are great people. You saw some crazy stuff, especially in the state of Florida. You saw some legislation that drastically changed it. I would love to see someone, I'd love to debate someone on if they think that changing the AOB in the state of Florida was a bad decision, why that might be. I can't imagine there's a rational possibility why a public adjuster should be able to be the one cashing the insurance check as opposed to the policyholder. Who knows? But some crazy stuff on the state of Florida a couple years back. That's it, y'all. That's it. It's an hour. It's been 1 hour. This is the Claims Recruiter Office Hours live stream. I got my Jimothy t-shirt on. Friendly raccoon. You're still here. You're still joining. I appreciate you tuning in. We do this every single week. This is the 30th installment, the 30th week, 2026. Hope you have a fantastic week. Again, congrats to Bailey. Let's see if I can. Congrats to Bailey. If I helped you in any way, shape, or form, helped you 1% get better and get your next job, I'd love to hear from you as well. So send me a DM, send me an email, send me a message.